Hello and welcome to episode 34 of HardcoreGaming101.net's top 47,858 games of all time podcast, where we objectively, definitively, and scientifically rank the games you nominate. My name is Xerxes, and friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Mario, not to praise him. My panelists today are...
I'm Carl.
I'm Bobinator.
I am Jeff Rude.
And I'm Jonathan Holmes.
Jonathan, our extra special guest, took a second flight out here to HG 101 Towers to be with us again. So thank you very much.
My pleasure. Happy to be back.
On this podcast, we have 3 rules. Rule number 1, all rankings are final, official, and scientifically accurate. Rule number 2, you can nominate one game at a time via 5-star review on iTunes or Stitcher. We've stopped accepting nominations via Twitter for the time being. We just have way too many to get through. Rule number 3, you can nominate games that have already been nominated. Just don't nominate games we've already ranked. See for yourself which games have been nominated and which games have been ranked by going to bit.ly/47kgames. Okay, so our next game is Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence, which was nominated by Soup32 from Canadian iTunes several months ago. I'm sorry it took us so long to get to you. I remember when that was about the time we said, hey, give us a review on iTunes, 5 stars, we'll fast-track it. And then everybody did that. Mm-hmm. And so it wasn't fast-tracked in the end. It was just regular-tracked. But thank you, Soup32. This is a great game. It was developed by Konami Computer Entertainment Japan and published by Konami for the PS2. There are HD updates and such, I think, now. Its earliest release date and territory was December 22nd, 2005. It doesn't feel like that long ago, but, you know.
And is it pronounced subsistence or subsistence?
I would say subsistence, like subsist.
Because it's substance and subsistence, I think.
Is it subsistence or subsistence?
I always thought it was, because my favorite part, and I have a lot of favorite parts of Metal Gear Solid 3, it is one of my favorite games about just being there. It is one of those games where if you just plop me in it, I'll just sit around and look at frogs or find frogs for like an hour. As many people play Skyrim or Proteus or any of these other modern games where it's just about being in a space and enjoying the space. I love it, and I love finding things to eat. I will just play an eating-only run of Metal Gear Solid 3 because of the subsistence. I want to eat those frogs, those tree frogs. So fun.
I thought it was like subsistence because you subsist off the land, like you forage in the jungle. Am I okay? So this is just a Wikipedia search away.
Is this the first time someone has compared Metal Gear Solid 3 to Proteus?
Oh yeah. Because they're both games about just being in the woods. It's fun for me.
The Woods is a huge gamble in the PlayStation 2, by the way. Just so we can talk about the game off this side. Yeah. It's crazy. Like, let's make a PlayStation 2 game a heavily organic wooded area. That's madness.
Right. Tons of flowing grass.
It's the one. Yeah, it's the one area that was untouched from the original Metal Gear games. Is they? I think it was the first one started you out in like the forest, right, in the jungle somewhere. Mm-hmm. And they didn't really do that with Metal Gear Solid.
Nope.
There were some outdoor sections, but yeah, I mean, it would have been. Oh yeah,
snowy. It was very. And to be fair, Metal Gear Solid, they didn't have much to work with in terms of polygon power, so they had to try to make things pretty flat and not too complicated in terms of the geometry. Metal Gear Solid 2, they didn't have much of an excuse there. They just wanted to be on a boat, I guess.
There was one excuse, and that is one little minor technical difference between MGS2 and 3. MGS2 runs at 60 FPS. 3 chunks it down to 30. So they really wanted MGS2 to crank out 60, and then when it came to 3, they were like, we want trees.
Yeah.
Everybody's already got a PS2. We don't have to sell them on it.
Exactly.
30.
True, and they sold them on Metal Gear Solid 3 twice on that. One of the few games to get a remaster in the same generation, just a couple years later, which is the version we're talking about. First came out as Metal Gear Solid 3, and then they added what? They added the original Metal Gear 2 to the package for the PS2. re-release.
Yeah, so Subsistence. It is indeed Subsistence.
It is.
Not that it matters.
No, it's good. Now I know. Thank you.
But according to Wikipedia, which I will quote verbatim, because it is the sole arbiter of truth in the 21st century, Subsistence eschews the extra single-player missions to include updated versions of the series' first two games, Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2: Solid Snake. A brand new competitive online mode, a fully 3D user-controlled. I didn't do any of that crap.
I played the heck out of that.
Games, though.
You could be one of the Rumble Roses wrestlers in that was the original Metal Gear Solid Online, as far as I recall. And they had Rumble Roses. Say again?
Oh, those servers have been off for years, so you can no longer do any of that.
I loved it. I had a great time, and I'm very uncompetitive. I do not care about winning against people and things. But again, just being in the world and seeing what was happening was a lot of fun. The bosses in Metal Gear Solid 3. The one who's just a guy whose eyeballs go in two different directions, and he sits in a tree for literally an hour. And you just sit there, wait for something to happen. I loved it.
It's
incredible. Yeah,
the bosses are definitely the take home. I think this is the peak period before. Look, I think in Metal Gear Solid, especially Metal Gear Solid 4, but also 5, it went too wacky. It went too crazy. Like all the bosses, just like we're crazy things that just do wacky, insane things.
I mean, this one did have the guy who is literally the guy who
but I feel that there's a
surrounded by bees and shoots bees out of his mouth.
I know, but it works so much. Like it feels more reasonable, and maybe it's because it might be because this one is set in the Cold War and it's not pumping nanomachines directly into your vein. So it's just kind of like, well, this guy has, he's like some weird like Soviet kind of thing going on, even though I think they're not Soviets.
I think like a swarm of hornets. Like, there's another guy who will hold bullets between his fingers and use electricity powers to burst the.
That guy's actually the only one that bothers me because they never explain anything. He just shouts a lot with him.
Yeah. Didn't he grab Raiden by the genitalia? Raiden, I'm sorry, I always mispronounced that.
Yeah, no, they grab both each other's genitalia. Basically, they both do the crutch grab.
It's mutual. Yeah, it's mutual.
So I love that Metal Gear Solid 3 is willing to go so hard with video game logic again, while starting you off without any video game logic. Like, it starts off like, we're going to be serious.
Yeah.
This is Rambo again, except it's got some 007 music, so it's like both of your most ultra-masculine Hollywood heroes in a video game. Video games are so grown up now. They're James Bond and Rambo together. And then B-Guy shows up. And then later there's a ghost.
And right after B-Guy is the crocodile hat. Don't forget that.
It's so good.
But the Ghost guy is superb though. Like he is like he could fit in like a serious genuine production. Like he just works really well.
So let's really quickly, since we talked about Metal Gear Solid way back in episode.
It wasn't that long ago, was it?
No, I mean, we don't write down what episodes.
Speak for yourself, dude.
17.
The clock is ticking on me. I don't. Yeah, 17. All right. So, I mean, a lot of the stuff about this gameplay is kind of the same. It builds on it, but it adds, as we said, the foraging thing. Like you have a stamina meter, right? And you can refill it by stabbing animals and eating them. And then you get like little.
Otherwise, you just collapse, right?
Yeah, you'll die, right? So you can.
You'll die just from that.
You'll die, and you can also kill the bosses by depleting their stamina, which is of course really cool.
That's the only way I beat that sniping boss. But he knows photosynthesis.
No, it's the one that you can trick is the fear, the lizardy guy. If you give him poison food, he gets like screwed over by it.
Oh, right.
This is the game where you can also you can blow up like the ration shed earlier in the game, and it makes so you can hear the guards coming because their stomachs are growling. Am I remembering that correctly?
So what I love about it over Metal Gear Solid 1, which I just cannot get into, there are so many little points of connection you can make with this game through the cutscenes, are often interactive, and you can like find secrets within the cutscenes. There's this weird dream sequence where it's suddenly like Metal Gear Solid. I'm sorry, like Devil May Cry, which was kind of an up and comer at the time that was often talked about. It
was a game that they ultimately canceled. So that's the only thing that you'll ever see from that project.
That's right.
That dream sequence is removed from most of the other ports of the game. I don't even know if it's in Subsistence or just the original, but
I think it is in Subsistence.
It might be in Subsistence, but they definitely removed it in later re-releases, which is a shame because that was a neat little touch.
It sure was. So there's so many different ways you can find a point of connection with this game, and that's what makes me so happy.
It also adds the camo system, right?
Yeah, another point of connection, and the way it embraces video game logic so hard with such a straight face. It makes it like the top secret. Like, it's totally a comedy game for me, like, without...
because you can change your pants, like, instantly. Like, you're like a quick change artist. You're just like, camo, I'm done.
Have you seen the movie Top Secret by Zucker, Abrams, and Zucker, who did Airplane?
Airplane, and yeah, I have, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't know... The script doesn't know it's a comedy, but they shot it like a comedy. And that's how I feel about Metal Gear Solid 3. I'm losing my voice all of a sudden. Too excited.
I mean, the question with Metal Gear Solid 3, and I think the whole franchise, is obviously, the main guy, Kojima. I don't know how serious he is most of the time, because I think he feels very serious, and the game works because I think he's serious, and it's just but it's absolutely wacky.
Well, I think by Metal Gear Solid 3, he wanted to quit. And they wouldn't let him. So I think this was the beginning of his passive-aggressive but also sincere phase.
I do like the idea that he couldn't, like, it's like, I want to quit. And they're like, no, you're not quitting. It's like, all right, I guess I'll keep working then.
That's my understanding.
What kind of blackmail do they have on him, right? You're going to keep making Solid Snake games
I think they had the golden noose on him. They were like, here's more money. Please make it. Here's more money. So he couldn't say no.
He worked for a Japanese company. Whatever it wasn't money.
Well, he's out now, so good for him.
But a big part about the approach of this game I think does try to have. Does it have slightly more pathos than the previous Metal Gears? I think it tries to slip in a little bit more like war is bad kind of deal.
Oh, sure. Well, the last boss, if I remember correctly, spoilers again. You've got this mentor for the whole game. She's like the first middle-aged woman in video games that I know of, like at all.
Ever.
And she's like conventionally attractive, but not in a way that makes her seem artificial. She seems very real in terms of both her look and her character. Right. And then you're forced to...
Like a C cup, B cup. Right?
Well, she's surprisingly conventional in even like a Kojima game, where in the same game you have like a woman who's wearing a jumpsuit, which is just kind of like, like
she just zips it
cleavage everywhere.
But Kojima, equal opportunity. There's tons of male sexuality in his games too.
I mean, we said the crotch grab. It's very clear that he's just kind of like, whatever. I feel like putting this in the game. But so the final boss.
Yeah, the final boss battle, if I remember correctly, you have this incredibly dramatic moment where the player is more or less given no choice to kill this mentor character, and it waits for you to press the button, or else you can't move forward without them being shot and killed. So it can be very serious at times, but for the most part, a straight-faced send-up of video game logic and movie logic conventions combined in one.
Well, also, as I said, it's set in the Cold War, and I think what's really cool about that is it downgraded Metal Gear. Like, you got rid of your radar, introduced the camera system, so it's like it doesn't just it doesn't say, oh well, it's Metal Gear in the past. It's actually, no, it is Metal Gear in the past. You actually lose equipment that you previously took advantage of.
Sure.
If I could add, kind of to drag this back and maybe bring it around, the thing for me that makes Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence like, oh, okay, I'm interested suddenly in Metal Gear, is they gave it a camera that wasn't bullshit.
Big time.
And like, I actually, solely based on your recommendation, Jonathan, I actually played Metal Gear Solid for the first time like a year and a half ago, and it's because you likened it to Pac-Man, and it's the only way I could get my head around it. It's just like, oh, it's like a maze
I was slagging off on the poor game earlier, sort of for goofs, because I do like Metal Gear Solid when I pretend it's Pac-Man. But if I don't pretend it's Pac-Man, I get really sad and I have to stop.
I think that's a fascinating comparison, and like I kind of when I approached from that, I was like, oh, I'm kind of enjoying myself. But given the choice between that and a camera that is mounted to a right stick, oh my god.
And really organic environments that didn't feel
you get to see all the beautiful environments that they put tons of effort into.
Sure. Each one is a little playground that you can approach in multiple ways, which I'm sure is also true of Metal Gear Solid, but maybe it's just the way I played it.
I think felt a little much more so in this game. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, you think so too?
Yeah. Well, as you said, there's all these animals and stuff running around too, and you get to. It feels actually alive in the environment, which. Like, for a game that is about running around and choking people and killing bosses, to have an actual environment that is an environment is pretty, it's pretty neat.
Absolutely.
Where do we want to put this one? I mean, because we gotta look at this. It is better than Metal Gear Solid, but can we rank it above Metal Gear Solid? Does it exist without Metal Gear Solid? Is it...
You know what I'm going to say.
I know what you're going to say, yeah. But, I mean, I can't recommend Metal Gear Solid over this game. I kind of feel bad that we ranked. If I had known MGS3 was coming, I think we would have ranked Metal Gear Solid differently, because this is the Metal Gear Solid game to play, and Subsistence in particular, because it's got the MSX games attached to it.
Sure.
Which can't totally rank literally, but we have to factor that in, like, because it was specifically nominated.
Well, as Jeff said, the camera angle, and it's one of the main things. You had Metal Gear Online and the camera change. That was probably the two biggest inclusions in Subsistence. And we were very specifically asked to do Subsistence. It wasn't MGS3; it was Subsistence. So the camera change is pivotal in this game.
Vital.
This one.
I will also say, though, about MGS3 is it does do something which I really hate about modern game design, which is adds a whole bunch of extra collectathon like crap, like checklist stuff. Like, did you get all the animals? Did you get all the did you get all the little frog figurines? What are they called? Caro-chan?
I love those frog figurines.
I hate them.
I love any excuse to go. If I love being in a game's world, I love any excuse to go.
You passed the point of no return. You can't get that animal anymore.
Am I remembering this right, guys? Or am I having a problem? Wouldn't be the first time I had a problem. Was it Ape Escape? Oh, yeah. So there are Ape Escape
is a mini game.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. But there was also you could be a snake monkey in, I think, Ape Escape 3.
In Ape Escape 2, I believe there's I think it's 2. I'm not sure if it's 2 or 3, sorry. But yeah, they definitely include they did like a crossover, which is an amazing crossover. Like Ape Escape, Metal Gear Solid. Let's throw them in each other's games. What a nice thing to do.
Snake versus Monkey is kind of cool. But anyway, my point is simply that there was, like, I think too much extra stuff added for its own good, and that was the start of a downward spiral in Metal Gear Solid games. It just gotten. Some people love that, but I hate it. Like, I really hate it.
The flag here is that I think, and I said this a little earlier in a way, was I think this is the one. This is the Metal Gear that kind of sits at that transition point where it's like, let's add all this cool stuff, and let's not have too much of Kojima doing some really just like stuff that's just piles and piles and piles of fan service and piles and piles and piles of crazy crap. It's got a nice balance where it's like I can still kind of feel how this is connected to MGS 1 and 2, but it also does include so much extra richness in it before that richness kind of becomes bloat. So I think it's good. I think it sits in that point.
I think that in terms of content and in terms of the line between trying to suspend disbelief and going surreal, it's also at the perfect point in the series, where the Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2, for me, weren't quite weird enough. They felt a little bit like they were sincerely just trying to be movies, and that kind of bored me. Whereas Metal Gear Solid 3 gives you a little bit more of that video game logic early on, but doesn't go so far into throwing camp and nonsense at you nonstop, like how I think the later Metal Gear Solid games did. So I like it a lot.
I mean, I put it above 3. I put Metal Gear Solid. I put 3 just one above it. Like, I just put it above it in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like,
it's funny how we occasionally wind up with these little clusters on this list of very like games. And I think this is actually a acceptable case for it happening. Honestly,
I mean, that's
it is. It's
I mean, like we say, like, oh, we might have ranked Metal Gear Solid lower. I don't think so. I think these two games are considered kind of two pinnacle games. There's a reason that Kojima is regarded as a really fantastic creative. There's a reason the franchise is so well respected, and I do think it's MGS1 and MGS3. They're the two games that are just like, wow, what great games for when they were, available.
Absolutely.
MGS3 is still a great game. I think that's what puts it above MGS1. Whereas MGS1, it's really hard to recommend it to newcomers. Mm-hmm. I would always tell them to start with MGS3. I also want to point out that like there's a lot of the detail stuff that after MGS3, it's no longer admirable. It's just kind of like, oh my god, are you still doing this? Like, just stop, just stop.
Alone in Metal
right,
Gear
like, well, I mean,
like
I think it was gratuitous in the original Metal Gear Solid, the cutscene stuff. Like, I really don't like that aspect of his game design, the storytelling type thing. Like, I'm pure mechanics. I want to be snapping necks left and right, but
well, they improved the neck snapping in 3. What a great addition.
Mm-hmm. They improved a lot of
neck
stuff.
snapping is a bit better. Yeah, that's true.
I came at these games from an even weirder angle because I actually went to graduate school and studied nuclear regulatory security stuff, and at one point was interested in doing like safeguards implementation for nuclear power plants in the United States. And playing these games, like going through this like kind of weird auteur video game director's version of like nuclear proliferation 101 was fascinating.
Did they teach you what the code was to the football?
I can't tell you too many things about what they taught me. I can tell
you. I can tell you what it was up until like about like 1991 or something.
Oh
wow!
It was 0000. They never changed it.
What?
That was the code. It was never up. Like the default code for the briefcase was 0.
I'm so scared for our world.
Oh yeah. Well, luckily now they've changed it, and Trump can only keep track of 3 numbers at a time. So there's 4 on the briefcase.
Hopefully, we'll be safe. Sure, I feel safe.
But
now.
So that's Metal Gear Solid 3. I mean, we didn't really have any dissent. I don't think.
Metal Gear Solid. I would put it. You know what? I'm going to say I would put it above Doom.
Wow. Me too.
It's so gamey. That's the thing. It's gamey, not like gamey like squirrel meat gamey. I'm just talking like gamey.
Yeah, but it will. It doesn't force one flavor down your throat for any length of time. It'll let you just relax in a fake world for a while. Then it'll give you a very movie-influenced cutscene, and then it'll just total video game logic for you. It gives you so many different points of connection.
Is it? I can't remember. Is it the first Metal Gear Solid game where in the cutscenes you can switch to the character's eye view?
Yeah, as far as I remember. I think they might have done some of that in... no, I don't think they did in Twin Snakes. I think that it was the first one. And it's also the first one that I know of that has live action elements in some of the cutscenes where
That's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, I love that stuff. FMV.
I mean, like this is definitely the first one where you can interact within the cutscenes. I think because obviously you can, there's you can shoot the end, which is phenomenal that you can do that during the gameplay. In the fixed segment.
I'm with you 100% above Doom.
Okay,
I can handle that. I've got I only put it above MGS because I was like, well, it probably should go at least above it. I'm fine with above Doom. I think that's.
So Tenga right now is going to be having the proverbial cow.
Oh yeah, freaking out. I have a hard time putting it above Link to the Past, to be perfectly honest. But
I was going to put Link to the Past at 1. That's
Bobinator. You want to back me up?
Bobinator's too busy updating his resume for like other podcasts.
I'm sorry, I just figured you guys had this in the bag. I will go whenever you have a.
Jeff really wants you to be like, no, put it below Link to the Past.
I will say, like, I would put. I mean, here's the thing:
again, nostalgia. It's a hell of a drug. Got to put it below Link to the Past.
Wow.
Okay.
I think that still makes it 3-2. Though.
Okay, so
it does make it 3-2. We're still kind of above it as a general consensus. I mean, the thing is, like, as you're saying, like, Metal Gear Solid 3 is kind of peak video game in a lot of ways. Like, this is everything that you can say is good about video games compared to other media is in this game. Mm-hmm.
But it's also just sloppy enough to be endearing, like in a way that I have to applaud. Like there's a lot of shagginess to this that I enjoy.
Which to me is peak video game. Like my favorite video games that try to be cinematic fail at it in a fun way that ends up making fun of movies a little bit and making fun of just being alive. They end up being parodies of my life in a way that makes me smile.
Something that if you get like, we'll say Uncharted, and I don't want to crap all over the Uncharted series, but Uncharted, you never, like, it's a cinematic game, but you never feel like you're kind of breaking anything. You never feel like you're having freedom. It's just, I'm completing the inputs and I'm doing the right thing. Metal Gear Solid 3, you're like, whoa, can I do that? Did I do that? Wow, I can. Yeah. Can I try this? And it
points of connection again. Yep, exactly right. Couldn't have put it better myself.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're done.
Yeah,
we're done.
Link's Awakening's a hell of a game. So, okay.
I agree. I feel like the Zelda series is such a hard thing to talk about because it's really, you want to rank the whole series is what you want to do, and you can't.
To each other. Yeah.
Right, you can't.
I'm the resident Zelda weeb out of this group. I guarantee it. No one's even going to really...
Oh, no. Well, if I'm part of the group for now, I would say they're like perfectly tied. Zelda 3 and Metal Gear Solid 3 are just like my sweet babies that I'm going to be thinking about all night tonight after talking to you guys about it. Feels good.
Let's do it. Let's just seal it right there where it's been suggested. I can accept it.
It's shrink wrapped.
Right between SMB3 and Doom.
I feel weird about that.
Gotcha, thank you.
I think it has to be.
All right.
The next game is A Tale of the Sun, which was nominated by @BBlackford on Twitter, developed by ArtDink and published by ArtDink in Japan, Sony Computer Entertainment of America in North America. Earliest release date and territory was April 26th, 1996 in Japan. Who here has played Tale of the Sun?
I played it when it first came out. Yeah, Kyle played it recently. Thank God for him. I haven't played it in
Who here has played Tale of the Sun for more than 10 minutes?
I assume that's just myself and Jonathan here. We're the only. Yeah. I think we're the only ones that gave it a shot. It's
I saw a picture. At least I'm honest.
Let me give you a summary. Of Tale of the Sun. It's the quintessential caveman simulator because I think that's pretty much the only one, I believe.
I'm gonna stop you right there because from what I looked at, this basically looks like Proto Ark Survival Evolved.
Whoa.
The thing about this game is when you read descriptions, you look at it, you go, oh, it's gonna be like this. The thing is, you don't build anything in this game. Yeah. You don't do anything, basically. You play as a randomly face-generated caveman. There's a lot of random faces, which is actually probably my favorite part of the game because they've got like terrifying, like purely black shadow face with like glowing eyes, and they've got like tattoos all over, and they've got bird faces. Really cool stuff.
And like, that screen has like weird angels hovering around on it as you're generating them.
Yeah, like you've got the angels are like the spirits, which are, I don't know, they're not you, but they kind of only show up when you pick a character or when you're about to die, because there's no life bar in this game. It's just if you're drowning or if you haven't eaten food recently, it'll start to float above your head like, watch out, you're gonna die, and then you die and it carries you off, and that's you explode into polygons, as was the tradition in 1996. So, yeah, you start the game and you have no idea what you're doing, because that's that is how the game works. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a manual for this one. I looked around for one.
I've got one lying around somewhere. It'll take me a little while to find it. Yeah, I still have the original.
We can do without.
But no, there was no scanned one online. But as far as I know, it doesn't really tell you that much. Basically, you run around, you eat food, which raises your different stats, and then you beat up animals, and you also have the ability to drastically increase one of your stats temporarily, kind of, with this tattoo boost system. And that's pretty much all you do. Your goal is to get a powerful weapon by kind of waiting for the game to give you a powerful weapon, and then you beat up mammoths. And
it has a day-night system, right?
It has a complete day-night system, and it has one of the funniest day-night systems ever, because in most games, when your character's tired, it'll tell you need to sleep. In this game, your character will get lockjaw mid-jump, fall into the ground, and immediately start sleeping.
Yeah, wherever you are.
Yeah, wherever you are, even if it's water, you'll just go head first into the water. It will wake you up, though, if you're in a position to drown, or if you get attacked by enemies.
Well, you fell asleep.
Everything about this game is so
great.
Goddamn, this game is visually a strange mashup of something like Bubsy 3D and Animal Crossing Wild World. The texture, the planes kind of roll in.
You cannot rotate the camera from the front-on perspective except to kind of angle it up or down. You can't do a 360 camera. Mm-hmm. So you're always kind of awkwardly walking towards the camera sometimes.
The whole thing looks like a Dire Straits video.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man, that's...
But in terms of genre... and looking at all the games in whatever genre this is, it is one of the first. It is one of the precursors to this whole, I live in Japan and I hate my life because I'm around people all the time and I have all these social pressures. What if I was just not in a human world? What if I just got to beat up dinosaurs like in Monster Hunter, or if my best friend was a crocodile like in Animal Crossing, or if I just kill that frog and eat it like in Metal Gear Solid 3. This came before all of that.
You do get to kill animals and eat them in this. That's a big component.
I think it is one of the first I want to camp forever and never see another human being games.
It's a couple years after, say, Harvest Moon. But
Harvest Moon, very social structure though. You've got to.
It's true. But so is Animal Crossing. So
Animal Crossing, the way I play it, I don't talk to anybody. I dig holes around everyone's house, and I get as much crap as I can. I just eat all the fruit and make everyone poor and destroy the economy by being a glutton. So it depends on how you play it. But you're right. There's absolutely potential social. Yeah, but very bad.
And if you're going to be a douche about it, I guess. Yeah.
This game is kind of they don't describe it really, but it's kind of a pseudo sequel to their Dink's previous game, Aquanauts Holiday, in the sense that you just kind of go around an environment. And I think one of the criticisms of that game was that you didn't do anything, so they went, all right, fine, we'll add a really arbitrary you go kill mammoths to get their bones to build a tower goal to the game. And that was just them being annoyed that people were like, what, you want to do something in our do nothing simulator? Well, fine, have a dumb objective and get off my back.
Funnily,
I'm going to fantasize about living in caveman days.
Yeah, that's all they wanted. And Pikmin was another one in this genre. Pikmin was originally going to be a caveman game, and I heard they were like, I don't know, Tale of the Sun did it so well.
What were you doing in the caveman version of Pikmin? You were just slapping other cavemen, hey, follow me.
The Bulborbs, the things that try to eat you, were Tyrannosauruses. And that's a good question, though. I don't know if you just were an evil bastard.
Out of the ground.
Hey, I will say that that is something that's kind of a shame about this one, is you really don't get to, and on a basic level, interact with the other cavemen, because you can develop a tribe by raising your propagate stat, and you'll have 10, 15 cavemen that you can play by dying and choosing a new one, essentially. But you very rarely see them, and you can't make them follow you and go beat up an ostrich together or kill a monkey. it's very solo experience.
Yeah. There is no command. Hey, let's get together and kill a monkey. that should be a menu option there.
I was very disappointed.
I don't blame you. But it was not that much worse than Cubivore in that way.
I'd say
Cubivore really pushes a like that Evolve and sort of like Evo and those sort of games where you're like you build stats and then you become different things kind of.
Yeah, but by just having a third flap for a leg sometimes.
Yeah, but then your movement changed. I love that about Cubivore. He has little flaps that kind of make you bounce around. It's really cute.
It is, but it wasn't like, I morphed into a whole new creature. At least it didn't feel that way to me. It's just like,
no, you don't really. But in this one, you're either a male caveman or a female caveman. They're essentially identical.
Sure.
But and the thing is, the main thing about this game is it is way too early for a walking sim, but that's basically what they really were going for, like just a.
How many games
you
have we said this about,
just before Metal Gear Solid 3 to Proteus, this really is kind of Proteus-ish. Like, it's just like, I'm just going to walk around and look at things, but my goal is to eat food and kill, like, animals.
Get those bones later.
And in a way, yes.
Yeah, what they should have done is I would have liked acknowledgement of the earlier characters. Like, I would have liked if, like, the very first character you were, like, the first cool thing you did, you became the god of all the subsequent characters. You know what I mean?
Any
like
kind of afterlife in general would have been cool.
Just some kind of acknowledgement of what came before. As I feel like one of the things this game is sort of missing. One thing I like about a lot of Art Dink games, this one as well, is that you feel like you could set this up in like MoMA and just like a room all by itself, and it would kind of like fill some kind of niche, like whatever it is. Like you can imagine like some kind of like pretentious types like going into, oh, I love what they did with this. Is really speaks to me about the isolation of the human experience. Like whatever, it's Tale of the Sun. But the name even has like some kind of weight.
Yeah, that's definitely
isn't really.
They call themselves Art Dink, and it's clear that they were going for something completely atypical for other games. This is 96. This isn't even like late PlayStation. This is pretty early PlayStation to be like, okay, there's no life bars, basically. You can't tell what's going on. There's no instructions. Whatever. I don't care. Go play out game that you don't really do that much in. It's like, that's a very odd direction.
Survive and die. That is the point. What is the point of life? Imagine it's like made by Werner Herzog, you know?
You would love this game.
Yeah.
All you do is find nothing, and nothingness is all you find. I'm so sorry, I love you. Tale of the Sun.
Yeah, like, so this game is, death is inevitable because either you die of starvation, something kills you, or you die of old age. You cannot maintain a character indefinitely, I think. Eventually you just drop dead, which is somehow poignant.
The good news is you have a procreation stat that you can use.
So for me,
like these little things. Sorry, I just to keep the propagation stat real quick. There's like you get the propagation stat, and then it just kind of randomly generates you new cavemen. There's no kind of like if you have this one and this one, it generates this one. Like I don't think there's anything like that. It's just like you get a new caveman, they have this face. Like that's it. You know, there's no kind of feeling of anything progressing onwards. It's always just like.
You get the idea that there was something else they were going to do with that, and they were just like, whatever. We're going to make like Take the A Train 5 or something. You know, it's like.
Did Art Dink make those train games?
It just Take the A Train, right? That was their.
Good for Art Dink. I had no idea.
It was really good.
The Take the A Train games. Yeah, anyone who can and have the passion for trains enough to make a whole game about it gets my stamp of approval. But I feel like. This era of the PS1 was this fun kind of teenager stage of development for video games as a quotes art form, unquotes, because it is art form to me. But then you know people like Kojima say they're not artists, so who knows? And where I don't know how you guys were when you were teenagers, but I thought like maybe I'll be the greatest electric guitar player of all time. And sure, I'm not that good now, but. If I practice like 3 more hours, maybe I'll get there. Or maybe I'm the hottest dude ever, even though I'm ugly right now. But like, if I just work out a little bit. So like, there was this. They didn't know that they sucked yet, So they would try to do stuff that they couldn't ever do very well because they had no idea how far the medium was going to go or how far they could take it.
That's true. At that point in 1996, who was to say this was the worst Caveman game ever?
Exactly.
You've got like the Joe and Mac series. You've got, the Chuck Rock series. It's
PC,
Adventure Island? Does
Olympics
that count?
Or whatever that was.
There's so many games this is better than in terms of Caveman games. But there was no, it's pre-Spore, which is the weirdest thing that's ever come out of my
Spore is like
it's pre-Animal Crossing, it's pre-Monster Hunter, it's pre-Pikmin, it's
pre-Black and White.
Pre-Black and White.
All this stuff is in there, but that it wasn't like we're making the game that's going to be the next step to the next level of whatever. No, there was we're making a game that's about like a caveman. You walk in like a couple directions and then you fall asleep and die, and then you're another caveman, and sometimes you have a bird face.
I think they might have, we're speculating on intent, so that always gets in trouble. But just like how LSD, that PS1 game, I think they thought they were really making like the next level of avant-garde art game, when in fact it just ended up being kind of a meme 20 years later or whatever.
I think with the LSD game, it really this game. It does kind of sit in like a game area where you can say, all right, they were making this and they might have felt like, we won't know if this is a good game until we finish making it, but we're going to do it.
Right.
The LSD game is kind of like, this is just, we're doing that.
Guess what's for sale?
It's so hard to grasp what they were going for with the LSD game. It's a series of dreams that someone on the development team dreamt.
LSD
and
is kind of like,
it's not a game.
We don't accept returns kind of game. It's like,
well, I mean, you wouldn't want to return LSD if you had it now, because boy, is that game expensive. Thanks, Internet.
I mean, but this is the thing about PlayStation era, and Art Dingus is like one of the, in a way, quintessential PlayStation developers, like the original PlayStation, because they're just doing whatever. We're going to do what we want to do. We're three dudes. We work out of probably a garage or something, and we're just going to make what we want to make, and we can make these not immersive in the way we think of it now, but in the sense of 1996, it's you can walk through a field of, That's what they did. And
on top of this, and I want to talk a little tiny bit about the tech, because I don't want to sell this game short. There's no load times except when you die. The whole world is seamless, and it's not an impressive world, but it doesn't load. You go inside caves, you cross mountain ranges, you see a bunch of different types of creatures. The game streams it from the disc. They didn't have load times on this one. They actually wanted a seamless world, so you could really get into that space rather than segmented areas that just gate you and load you.
Even LSD couldn't accomplish that. Yeah. So
it is very,
Monster Hunter still can't do it.
It feels like a game like that is sort of a dam busting moment in a very strange way. It's this is a game that would never exist on a Nintendo console. This exists because Sony's licensing was such that you could cost effectively put out a game where you were a caveman wandering.
It costs nothing to publish this. It's the development cost, that's your overhead.
Yeah.
And it's going to get printed on a disc and put in a jewel case and on the store shelves, and sucks for you if you bought it, because it's
because this is before before Final Fantasy VII came out, before Square was all right, the way you make games for the PlayStation is you spend $50 million and have 150 people make your game. This was before that. It was just I
am pro this. If that's to me is what makes the PlayStation one of the finest consoles in the history of consoles. Not because of the quality of the game, just because when the hell else would a game like this come out for a console? For a computer, sure, whatever. But for a console, a tailored platform experience. You buy a game, it comes in a jewel case, you take it home, you put it in your machine, and what is this? You know what I mean? It is.
Yeah, it's we can do anything era. There's no filter for consoles of the PlayStation at this point.
Right, you don't know whether you're going to get a sewer shark. You don't know whether you're going to get a X Games. You don't know whether you're going to. You have no clue what you're getting, and they would just do it.
I bought One Piece Mansion new the day it came out because I'm like, well, this is a PS1 game. It's got to be something big. It's by Capcom. It's got to be something good. It's just a game about people yelling at each other and you sometimes destroying their house a little.
I believe PlayStation's the only console that got an RPG Maker port. Am I right about that?
I think 3DS just got one in Japan, but who knows if it'll ever come out here. And that's, that much after the fact.
That's true, right. I mean, it's taken a long time for that. And there's a reason. It's just like PlayStation's like is dirt cheap to develop for. Like you could have an Art Dink and Art Dink could just do what Art Dink does. It could Art Dink it up, just
as
dink
they
left
did.
and right. Just dink, dink, dink.
Well, okay, so I mean, this game, if you made this today, it would be on PC and it'd probably be built in Unity. That's basically like sort of what we're.
I want my money back. It would be like the Steam refund policy of the game. Like.
It would eventually maybe get on Steam after hitting itch.io for a while. Like that would be the sort of position that this game would sit in. So it's interesting that this got a widespread release and some reasonable critical acclaim. I do think I didn't score super well, but there were some critics at the time who gave it 7s and were kind of like, I can see where they're going with this. I just they needed to do a little more. And
who were they to say that? Yeah, that this wasn't the wave of the future at the time,
But
so what are we going to
jump into putting this somewhere?
Let's score it.
I'm saying right above Glover, and I have no reason for that.
No, that makes sense.
Fire, get it.
Right, it feels right.
Mm-hmm. I can't disagree with that.
You do like to slip the that's where we put Gomala Speed as well, because that's the weird kind of niche-y stuff that doesn't really.
Gomala Speed hurts my thumbs, whereas Tale of the Sun doesn't.
Tale of the Sun actually kind of understood its controls. They definitely actually.
Yeah, I don't have crippling arthritis after playing it. Therefore,
I will say Tale of the Sun is more vaporwave than Gomala Speed.
Tale of the Sun is super vaporwave.
It's
That's
a little
right.
more
the music in Tale of the Sun is fantastic.
Yeah,
I'm so glad you guys mentioned the sound.
The
music's great. It's
the music
so
is
good.
Like PC music by way of like caveman stuff.
Exactly, it's crazy. They didn't just get like generic chip tunes or something. They
bought like a caveman sound library and just like tied it into like a 10-key synth and just looped it.
It's so good. I love it. They have there's so much like variety. They have like this incredibly hostile sounding tracks that are like you're about to get murdered by a freaking horrifying monster, but it's just in the middle of a field and like the music just streams whatever it feels like.
Can you straddle the ball centipede?
I didn't wear that one out. I think that I would stick this above Riven, which is not much farther than it was.
I could feel that building up there, like Riven.
Above Mega Man Zero 2, which I love that game. That's tough. Yeah, sure, do it.
Okay, we're done. Yeah, done.
Can I say one last thing about the art in this game? Because it really impressed me that at night the sky turns over and there's like 1 billion planets in the sky and it just kind of rotates at a speed of like Mach 10. And it's the most insane sky sequence I think I've ever seen in my life. And that, for some reason, they built Fresnel into the lighting system, which is incredibly impressive to even bother to do that, which is where the different kinds of light sort of blend around the edges of a character. So when the sun sets, there's that really gorgeous like red-orange glow around things. And it's like, wow, they cared so much about that.
Their priorities were of a certain era that we'll probably never see again. And there's something magical to that. But you don't want to play it, really, do you?
No, I mean, there's probably some really good fans of like, art games or indie games that haven't played this game that would probably adore it, and they should really check it out.
Sure.
Because they would probably dig it.
That's all for this episode of Hardcore Gaming 101's Top Games Podcast. Special thanks goes out to @B_Blackford and Soup32 on Canadian iTunes for nominating these games. And thanks also to our super special guest host, Mr. Jonathan Holmes. Thanks to my other co-hosts, my regulars, for making this a big old family affair. Thanks to our editor, Jeff Rude, and our theme song and chiptune composer, Muteki. And, of course, thanks to the support and feedback of listeners like you. If you want to support this podcast even more, do so at patreon.com/HG101. I know I did. You can also help us out by subscribing to HG101 on the YouTube channel, which is fantastic, and you should definitely do it. You can also help us out by following @GC9Next and @HG_101 on Twitter. But most importantly, help us claw our way into the podcasting firmament by getting on iTunes, subscribing to the Hardcore Gaming 101 podcast, and giving us a 5-star review. Remember, add a game to that 5-star review, and we will definitely get to it. Do it, or we will be forced to go into excruciating detail about our individual procreation stats. Until next week, keep keeping it real.